Picture yourself sitting right here with me, face to face, as I share something that perhaps no one has ever told you with such honesty. A woman's words carry more weight than you might imagine, but not necessarily because they are sweet or kind. Often they mask the reality of how she truly perceives you. And here's the difficult part. If you fail to identify these indicators, you could waste years of your life with someone who never truly respected you, never appreciated you, and even worse, never viewed you as her main priority. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? But that is how things work. Men frequently fall into the trap of thinking that love means enduring, putting up with, and justifying a woman's behavior, even when that behavior is screaming that she no longer cares for you or simply never took you seriously. I want you to grasp this once and for all. What a woman says, even if she mentions it casually or masks it as a joke, can be the clearest evidence that you need to walk away immediately. Now, why is discussing this so controversial? Because we are usually taught the opposite, that men should be understanding, patient, and provide multiple chances. But tell me, for how much longer? How many times will you keep listening to words that damage your self-esteem and then act as if nothing happened? That is the most dangerous trap, remaining with someone who constantly proves through her words that she lacks respect for you, yet you persist in staying there. Let me tell you something that makes many people uncomfortable. A woman who truly respects you will never toy with your emotions through her speech. If she does, it is not because she was in a bad mood or didn't know what she was saying. It is because deep down, those words mirror her thoughts about you. And that, my friend, cannot be overlooked. In this video, we are going to discuss 5 specific phrases that, if a woman says them to you, require you to open your eyes and exit that relationship. I am not suggesting you get angry, yell, or create a scene. No, I am teaching you to identify behavioral patterns that ruin men's lives. The truth is that many end up stuck in relationships where they lose their dignity simply because they did not know how to interpret a sentence at the right moment. The most striking part is this: they know exactly how much power their words hold. It is no coincidence when she says something hurtful or compares you to others. It is not an accident when she throws phrases that undermine your confidence. It is a silent test to see how much you are willing to endure. And every time you tolerate it, every time you make excuses, she loses a bit more respect for you. That is why this video is so vital, because it is not just about hearing what a woman says, but about understanding what it truly signifies. And I want to make something very clear here. You are not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag. You are not here to be the nice guy who is told anything and just smiles as if it were nothing. You are here to be a man with dignity, someone who knows how to set boundaries and who does not allow himself to be manipulated. So listen closely. If you have ever been told phrases that made you feel lesser, that made you doubt your worth, or made you wonder if you were doing something wrong, get ready because you were likely facing one of these signals. What I want today is to give you the tools so that next time you won't hesitate. When you hear one of these phrases, you will know the correct response is to stand up, turn around, and leave her. Because at the end of the day, life is far too short to be with someone who does not respect you. 1. You deserve something better than me. I want you to imagine something with me. You are sitting with her, maybe in a coffee shop, perhaps on your own sofa, and suddenly, with a soft and almost innocent voice, she says, "You deserve something better than me." In that moment, many men make the mistake of feeling pity, thinking, wow, she feels insecure, she needs me to support her, encourage her, and make her feel valuable. But the truth, friend, is very different. That phrase is not a disguised compliment or an act of humility. It is a warning. It is a hidden message that means, I don't want to be with you anymore, but I don't have the courage to tell you directly. And this is where I want you to open your eyes wide. Because when a woman uses those words, what she is actually doing is dropping a clear hint that she is no longer interested in the relationship. It is like a door left ajar inviting you to leave, but many men do not understand it. Instead of seeing the red flag, they see it as a challenge. I must prove to her that I am the best thing that ever happened to her. And that is where the trap begins. Why is this phrase so dangerous? Because it puts you in the position of an emotional beggar. It forces you to spend energy, time, and love on someone who has already decided they do not want to be there. And the worst part is, She makes it sound nice, as if it were for your own good. But let's be clear, if someone truly believes you are the best, they fight to stay with you. They don't pull away with disguised phrases. Let me be brutally honest. No woman who respects you and truly loves you is going to tell you that you deserve something better. If she says it, it is because she is already looking for the exit, or worse, because she already has someone else in mind and needs an excuse to justify herself. Now, why do so many men get stuck with this phrase? Because it sounds tender, it sounds like vulnerability. Men with good hearts tend to think, I must take care of her, I must show her that she is enough. And in that attempt, they end up lowering their standards, accepting excuses, and tolerating attitudes they should never permit. I want you to see it this way. When she tells you, you deserve something better than me, what she is really saying is, I no longer want to invest in you. I want you to be the one who gives up so I don't have to carry the guilt. And there is the trick. She passes the responsibility of ending things to you so she can remain the victim and not the one who abandoned the relationship. Do you see how dangerous this is? Not only does it undermine your self-esteem, but it turns you into the villain of the story if you decide to go. But listen well, leaving at that moment is exactly what you should do. Because if a woman wants to be with you, she will fight, she will value you, and she will not use ambiguous phrases that plant seeds of doubt in your mind. The next time you hear these words, do not deceive yourself into thinking it is tenderness. Recognize it for what it truly is, a disguised exit. And instead of staying there trying to convince her that you are the best, stand up with your head held high and prove that yes, you do deserve something better. Not because she said it, but because you know it. 2. If you really loved me, you would do this for me. Imagine this scenario. She looks at you intently with that mixture of sweetness and pressure in her voice and says, if you really loved me, you would do this for me. In that moment, you might not even realize it, but you have just entered dangerous territory. What seems like a simple romantic phrase is actually one of the most powerful tools of emotional manipulation. And I want you to understand this well. When someone conditions their love on what you do or do not do, we are no longer talking about love, but about blackmail. Because true love is not measured in forced tests or sacrifices that go against your dignity. But this phrase is disguised as if it were a measure of commitment when, in reality, it is an exam you will never be able to pass. Think about this. When she says, if you really loved me, what she is doing is setting a psychological trap. She puts you in a position where any answer makes you lose. If you agree, you sacrifice your freedom and your boundaries to please her. If you refuse, she has the perfect excuse to say, see, you don't truly love me. And suddenly, the relationship stops being a space of respect and becomes a cage where she dictates the rules. Now, I want you to ask yourself, why would a woman use this phrase? Very simple. Because she wants to test how far she can push you. Because she wants to see if your need for validation is so great that you are willing to do things that are not your responsibility. And if you fall into that trap, she will go one step further every time. First, it will be something small, a favor, a sacrifice. Then it will be something larger, your priorities, your time, your money, your dignity. And do you know what the most ironic part is? The more you give in, the less she respects you. Because although she doesn't say it out loud, deep down she knows you are no longer acting like a man with boundaries, but like someone who fears losing her. And attraction does not survive when respect is missing. Let me put it this way. If a woman needs to set conditions for her to believe in your love, it is because she doesn't truly believe in you or the relationship. What she seeks is not love, but control. And what you must do when you hear this phrase is not justify it, not run to prove anything, but stop and think, do I really want to be with someone who measures my love with blackmail? Look, men who understand this know that respect is more valuable than any forced proof of love. True love is demonstrated in freedom and trust, not in emotional pressure. That is why every time you hear, if you really loved me, you would do this for me, do not take it as an invitation to prove yourself. Take it as a warning, a red flag that tells you, there is no love here, there is manipulation. And when you understand that, your decision must be clear. Do not get caught in psychological games, because in the end, a man who respects himself never has to prove his love under conditions. 3. You are too sensitive. It is not all about you. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you felt that your emotions do not matter, that what you say is ignored or even ridiculed? That feeling of speaking and having your words hit a wall. That discomfort you feel when you express something that affects you, but instead of receiving understanding, what you get is a phrase that cuts like a knife. You are too sensitive, or even worse, it is not all about you. When you hear that, something inside you breaks, because they are not just telling you that your feelings have no value, but they are also making you doubt yourself. You wonder if you really are exaggerating, if perhaps the problem is you. And that is where the silent erosion of your self-esteem begins. The hardest part of these phrases is that they don't sound violent, they don't sound serious, they seem harmless, but in reality, they are among the most damaging because they attack the core of who you are. Your capacity to feel, your right to express yourself, your need to be heard. Gradually, you learn to be quiet, to stay silent, to swallow what you feel to avoid being told again that you are being too sensitive. And here is the truth that many men do not want to face. When someone constantly invalidates what you feel, they are showing you that they have no interest in understanding you. It is not about whether you are strong or weak, it is about respect. Because every human being deserves to have their emotions taken seriously. And if that doesn't happen, what remains is a relationship where one person speaks and the other simply does not listen. Think about how it feels to live like that. You suppress what you think, you doubt your own judgment, you question yourself every time something makes you uncomfortable. In the end, you end up losing your voice. And when you lose your voice, you lose your power. And when you lose your power, you are no longer yourself within that relationship. The most dangerous thing about these phrases is that they turn what should be a relationship of trust into a space of constant insecurity, because every time you try to speak, your mind remembers, they are going to tell me I am exaggerating. So you choose silence. And believe me, nothing kills a relationship faster than forced silence. Now I want you to feel this with me. Your emotions matter. Your thoughts matter. If something hurts you, you don't need anyone's validation for it to be real. The fact that you feel it is enough, and if someone insists on minimizing it, it is not because you are too sensitive, but because that person does not want to take responsibility for what they are causing. And this is where you must be firm. Do not accept being made to feel small for expressing what you are going through. Do not accept having your voice cut off with phrases that disguise indifference as maturity, because in the end, a man with dignity does not stay where he is not respected. 4. My ex never did that. My ex was different. Listen carefully, because this might hurt a bit, but it is necessary. When a woman compares you to her ex, she is showing a lack of respect toward you and toward the current relationship. Telling you phrases like, my ex never did that, or my ex was different, is not just an opinion. It is a direct blow to your dignity. And this is where I want you to open your eyes. When they hear these types of phrases, many men react in two ways. Either they get angry instantly and enter into endless arguments, or, and this is worse, they try to work harder to prove they are better than that ex. Do you realize the mistake? In both cases, you lose. In one, you lose your calm and clarity, and in the other, you lose your value because you start playing a role you should never have accepted, the role of competing with a ghost from the past. Here comes the critique, and I want you to take it calmly. Many men confuse love with blind sacrifice. They believe that tolerating comparisons is a sign of patience, when in reality, it is a silent way of losing self-respect. I repeat, love does not consist of putting up with everything just so the relationship doesn't break. True love has clear boundaries. If a woman compares you to her ex, it is not because you are not enough, but because she has not closed a chapter of her life. That does not depend on you, nor is it in your hands to fix it. And this is where many men go wrong. They think that with more effort, with more proofs of love, they will manage to erase those comparisons. But the reality is different. The more you try, the more you reinforce that toxic dynamic. The advice is simple but powerful. Wake up and remember that you are not a replacement. You are not in a relationship to compete with the memory of someone else. You are in a relationship because you have your own value, your own identity, your own way of giving and receiving love. And if she doesn't recognize it, it is not your duty to convince her. It is your duty to respect yourself enough to not allow those comparisons to continue destroying who you are. Keep this etched in your mind. A man with self-esteem does not exhaust himself trying to surpass someone who already belongs to the past. A man with clarity understands that if the other person is still anchored in their memories, they are not prepared to build anything real in the present. So the next time you hear a phrase of this type, do not fall into the mistake of getting angry, nor the mistake of trying harder. Do something much more valuable. Stay calm, recognize the hidden message, and make a firm decision, because in the end, it is not about being better than the ex, but about being conscious enough to not allow anyone to diminish your worth. 5. I don't need you. I want you to take a deep breath before hearing this, because it is one of the harshest phrases a man can hear from a woman. I don't need you. At first glance, it might sound like a declaration of independence, even something positive, because we all know that a person should have autonomy and not depend on anyone. But let's not deceive ourselves. When this phrase is used in the context of a relationship, its true meaning is much deeper and more dangerous. What she is actually telling you is, your presence here is not important. Your value in my life is optional. And that is a hard truth to accept because, let's be clear, we all want to be with someone who values us, who sees us as an essential part of their life, not as a replaceable piece. Now I want to address you directly as a man. When hearing this, many react with fear. They think, I have to do something more to prove to her that she does need me, and that is where they fall into the trap. Because genuine need in a relationship is not created with tests or sacrifices, but with mutual respect, admiration, and real commitment. When someone tells you they don't need you, what they are revealing is emotional detachment, and if you ignore it, you end up clinging to a relationship in which only one of the two is truly present. Here comes the critique that might hurt a bit. Many men remain in relationships where they are treated like an accessory, not like a priority. They endure cold words, accept indifferent attitudes, and justify it thinking that is just how things are, or that everything will improve with time. But time changes nothing if the other person has already made the decision not to value what you contribute. The advice is this, and I want you to take it seriously. Stop searching where you are not valued. A woman who truly appreciates who you are will never make you feel like an extra in her life. Do not confuse independence with indifference. It is fine for a person not to depend on you for everything. In fact, that is healthy. But independence is one thing, and making you feel irrelevant is quite another. Remember something fundamental. A healthy relationship is built when both know that, although they could live without each other, they choose to be together because they value, respect, and add to each other, not because one makes the other feel they are unnecessary. If you ever hear this phrase directed at you, do not ignore it, do not sugarcoat it, take it as a clear warning. You are not there to be tolerated nor to fill an empty space. You are there because you deserve to be chosen every single day. And if she doesn't understand that, then the one who has to open his eyes and make the decision to leave is you. Because in the end, what truly matters is not just being with someone, but being with someone who recognizes your worth. Many men believe they understand women, but the truth is that most have no idea what is actually going through their minds. And here is the controversial statement. A woman can love you and at the same time be evaluating if you are strong enough to maintain her respect. Yes, it might sound harsh, but it is the reality. Love is not always enough. If she perceives weakness, insecurity, or a lack of direction, she will begin to disconnect emotionally, even if she still says she loves you. This is the point many do not want to hear. A woman respects a man who respects himself more than one who lives only to please her. And if that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps it is because you need to reflect on your own behavior. I want you to think about your experience. Have you ever felt a woman pulling away from you without a clear reason? Have you noticed that subtle change in her attitude? Tell me in the comments because I want to read your story. I am interested in creating a real conversation with you, man to man, and I promise that if you share, I will be there to respond and build that connection together.